Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C-Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 99, which is pretty lit, of Beer and Podcast Adjunct series. We are back in the building. We have a fantastic one tonight. This is a brewery I discovered, I believe it was probably in 2020, during one of our earlier virtual pods that someone brought one of the beers, because this brewery is one of their faves, which we'll talk about. And I'm stoked to learn a lot more about it. We're going to be drinking a bunch of fantastic beers tonight, guys. So please welcome Nicholas from Knowlton. Welcome, man. There he is. How you doing, my dude?
Everyone.
They're all here.
Good. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm very excited.
Pleasure, my man.
Good to talk about the beer and talk about the brewery a little bit. So.
Yeah, man. I'm super stoked. I actually didn't tell you when we were talking offline, but it was Catherine from Cheers Boutique. I think it was
awesome.
She said you were there. The Cream Ale was one of her favorite beers, period, and you were her favorite brewery. And when we did the pod, I think it was sometime in 2020.
They've always been crazy supporters of ours, and one of our previous master brewery lived right next to their first location, and they built a pretty good rapport. And they're still one of our best supporters in terms of resale and stuff like that, and always calling us for questions and wanting our new products. So they're a really cool group of people that they're starting that. So
love to hear it, man. That's awesome. I'm super stoked to get into the beers and to learn a whole lot more.
Yeah, might as well jump into the first one, eh?
Yes, sir. So tell us, this is the English Special Bitter, ESB, which I'm loving. Yeah, I feel like these are just everywhere these days, in the best possible way. I love it.
Yeah, so we wanted to bring a little classic slammable pint, English pint over to the brewery, because we definitely feel like we're doing a lot of hoppy stuff at one point. We came out with our cream ale originally. This is one of our most newest products. This is actually the first recipe of one of our new brewers.
Perfect.
Gael is one of basically our only brewer at the moment. We have a new guy starting in a few weeks, but Gael Steinmetz is the guy who designed this recipe for us, and I'm very happy with it.
That's awesome, dude. And this was made. Yes, first of all, cheers.
Yeah,
get that in you. Ooh, wicked head, bro. That's crazy. Delicious. What's the ABV on this one, bro? 4.4. Nice, super crushable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
so
on
light
style?
Alcohol on it?
Is it typically light? Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on what you're looking for. ESBs come in a lot of ranges, right? It's a pretty big style, but we wanted a low ABV, something that you can sit down at the pub and drink basically as many as you want. It has a nice little sweet caramel side to it, a nice little balanced bitter sharpness right off the bat, but not a big thick bitter taste, a green taste on your tongue. The texture's a little bit creamy just because of that sweetness, and then a nice carbonation, and it's low ABV, about 25 IBU, and it's really a classic ESB for me. Whenever we do these things, we try to find as many examples of these on the market. There's not many in Quebec, for me at least. What I was able to see, I didn't find it was an overdone style, but it's a style that I've drank when I was in London quite a bit, and so it's definitely something we wanted to bring over here. And I challenged the brewer to do this. Technically, it wasn't the first recipe he did. The first recipe he did for us was still in tanks. It's a Japanese lager. And that's coming out in a few weeks. But we all know lagers just take forever. So yeah, it's definitely a fun little crisp beer. And then the artists, we work with a bunch of different artists, right?
Yeah, which is super cool.
And this beer got ready a lot faster than we had anticipated. So these these two artists, they didn't want to put their names on the cans, but they went with their Instagram handles. And they produced this art for us, and with like I think 48-hour notice, and they were super excited, but kind of really nervous at the same time. And I love the little story. It's us. We have a slogan at our brewery called "La vie est rude, la bière est douce," or "Life is rough, beer is smooth." And so we try to do like a little bit of like roughness in our stories, but it always ends up happy at the end. So here you get the English night guard with an alien, and then the alien, he comes up with an idea, and then they're just drinking together. So it's pretty jokes.
That's dope, man. The artwork, I definitely want to get into that tonight as well, because a lot of your art is it's a very big recognizable part of your brand.
We'll definitely jump into it.
But this is great. You described this really, really well. It's like, you're right that they're not, it's definitely like overdone. Absolutely not, as far as a style. I have done a few podcasts in the last few months where breweries we've started with an ESB, and it kind of surprised me. Yeah. Because it was like,
that's cool.
It's very cool. I love it. So I was really happy. Like normally, like I don't know, say you asked me this maybe a year or two ago, and I would have been like, oh, boring. But
I personally think we're going to talk about the industry and what we think about it, but I personally think we're probably going to be heading towards a serious, crisp, easy drinking style industry soon.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've kind of overdone the IPA, and we're kind of like even the IPAs, and then you get into fruit products and everything like that. You're kind of losing like what is beer for me. Like a true beer for me is like just crisp, easy, but it can be more complicated. Like this ESB, we get to the cream ale. That's a blonde, really lagerized product, super simple to drink, but it's got that classic aspects to those beer for those styles. And I think we're going to probably return to these like really nice, easy, no off flavor products.
Yes.
Try to just really get back to the simplicities of the product. So
I agree. I mean, we could even touch on it a little bit now. I was at a brewery in Ontario last week, and they were telling me that one of the hardest things to sell right now is a double IPA. And they think it's a mix of everything in life is kind of more expensive right now. I mean, the obvious gas and just food shortages, just things in general are more expensive. And two, everyone's fat from the pandemic. And obviously double IPAs are, if you look in New England, what's that, like 500 calories or something in a can?
Yeah, I also think there's like, it's hard to get a really good one. We make you'll see if you like our DDH oat cream.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
It's a double of our double version of our session oat cream.
Okay.
But I always find that they get quite too bitter on a lot of scales, or gets too green, or the alcohol is too present. And I always find there's just overpowering flavor. And one of the things that I've been very adamant with all our brewers and all our recipes is that we try to find balance with everything that we put in the beer, so that if we have a high alcohol level, we have the sweetness and the grain bed and the texture to balance it all out. I never like having like a one off, like one shoot of craziness to a beer. I think everything has to follow, so it's well balanced together. And I find a lot of people just like over dry hopping a lot of their product, and then it's just debalanced and hard to sell. For us, our double DDH oat cream, we released it like 2 weeks ago, and we have almost none in stock. So it's definitely selling pretty well.
It's what the people still want, I think, but I also think it's good that you did. What's the ABV on it? Like, I think it was 6 or 7, right? From memory?
The double?
Yeah.
It's 8.5.
Oh, it's 8.5. Okay. So, all right. So that's a good point. So maybe, and also like the person who mentioned this is in a different province. So, I mean, every province, every region has their buying habits and such. But I think he was more just an anecdotal noticing that the trend is towards lighter beers, coming back to what you said before. Yeah, not 100%. Taking away from the popularity of double dry hopped, big IPAs, because they're running the scene right now, right? But I think there's definitely going, whether it's cost, whether it's health conscious.
I think on a creative purpose and a industry favorite, you still have your space for your IPAs and your double IPAs, and they're going to sell well. but no matter what, your lighter, easy drinker product is
Mm,
approaching both the beer drinker, the micro beer drinker, and the person that doesn't usually drink our product.
it's true.
And so they're ultimately going to be the business drivers. The other ones are our creative outlets to show what we can do with the more complex grain beds and the more complex individual hop structures, and how we process the hops in our beer and do all the more creative work with those. Um, and they're going to make us less money.
Right.
It is what it is, but it is where we get a creative outlet.
Hmm.
It's too bad I didn't have the one of our versatile IPAs with us, because we came up with I've seen a lot of breweries do it, but basically we have this one grain bed that we're really really happy with, and now we're just playing with hops. But we're not just playing with like the amount or different styles. We're also using different techniques in
Hmm.
dry hopping or in the boil or in how we exposing the hops to the beer to see if we can get different extractions.
Hmm.
And we're just doing different variations one after the other. So
That's cool. What was that series called again?
it's called the Versatile IPA.
First time. Okay. And there's
Yeah,
like, I guess like just each different iteration is whatever. You just do
different.
that one time
Yeah,
and
so we've done three so far. We're brewing our fourth next week, and we have a fifth coming pretty much right after that.
sick.
We basically have a fermenter just doing these. And the first two, we had two different grain beds. Then the third one, we went with the same grain bed as the first because it's a
Mm,
nice 5.5. And it
perfect.
was just super nice grain bed to take on the right amount of hops and different procedures in the hops, and it had a beautiful texture and color. So we're just going to repeat that for a while, and we might just change the grain bed once in a while and throw a curveball in there, just a creative outlet, you know.
Love it.
The brewers kind of get tired of brewing. Uh, like they love to have just the same grain bed and just think about these new techniques in the hop extraction and whatever. We're pretty big nerds at our brewery, and so me and my brewers might sit down and go over to different techniques and try to like create our own thing. Um, to see if we can find a way to extract at a better efficiency for better flavor extraction too. So
That's great, man. I love that. Those type
yeah,
of series are fascinating. I think I imagine it's pretty popular as well. I feel like it, and it's part of a
yeah,
series
yeah,
that people keep coming back and they want to try. Oh, okay, I see what you did with this one. What's this like? And they're
yeah,
learning probably as you're learning. You're teaching the consumer about the product,
yeah,
about hops. You
and it's all one-offs, right?
know.
So we make 3,000 cans. They're not going to stay around for very long,
Wow.
and so people get excited for that. But also, if like we find a technique in those processes that we really like, we're going to try to tweak that so that we can use those techniques in our other products for better extraction and efficiencies and stuff like that. So
Oh yeah, bro. Love it. That's fantastic. So look forward to that this summer. So let's get into your story, dude. How did you personally get into beer, and then how did that kind of lead into the brewery?
yeah, so I've always just been a beer drinker, like since I can remember. Before legal age, I was definitely drinking my fair share of beer,
A
and my dad was not necessarily against it. We've had a tap in our house um, since I'm probably 14.
wow.
And now my dad actually has six taps in his house, and he has two in Montreal too. So he likes his beer. He's a partner in the brewery. He's one of the driving forces. We started together.
That's great.
Um, but you know, beer and the micro beer world has always been around us. We've traveled quite a bit, and as kids, we always go to the small microbrewery, wherever we were, just to have a beer. My dad always appreciated the industry, and I love the culture. I love just seeing the creativity in the space. But honestly, I never thought of starting a microbrewery until my third year of university. Going into our fourth year, the school I went to, we have to write a thesis and we have to do a big
Hmm.
project
Hmm.
that we want to finish our degree on, a thesis paper or whatever. I had taken a lot of courses in math, some business courses, some computer science courses, and that third year, I was supposed to drive across Canada with one of my buddies. I drove back and forth from Vancouver to Montreal every year. I lived in Squamish. Um, and so that year, my dad said, I'm coming to drive with you. So we decided to drive together. And when we started the trip, I brought him to my favorite brewery. One of my favorite breweries is Backcountry Brewing, which is in Squamish. They have this crazy social media, and their beer is just rockers. It's just great. The vibe in the place is just amazing. So I brought him there, and then on our way, we drove in, I think it was 7 days across, so fast but slow because Canada is so big. 7 days is still like 10 hours of driving a day,
It's a lot.
or 8 hours a day. And we stopped every couple hours to another microbrewery, and we took the longer way. So you went through all small towns, and we started seeing like this kind of cool thing that these little breweries were doing. They're like kind of making like revitalizing local economies and giving a central hub for social aspects for the towns and giving it a product for exportation. So we decided to drive across, and when we got back to Quebec, we were like, okay, what do we want? What should I do next? I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad has businesses all his life, and my mom's crazy serial entrepreneur, and my siblings are all in the game as well. And so when that summer, I was like, okay, let's look at things. So we started looking at maybe buying another brewery, a small brewery, and we didn't really find anything interesting. Then I said, okay, well, let's try to let's get me into a brewery. So I ended up getting a job at Dunham, and I was assisting Mathieu, one of their brewers there, for the summer as an assistant brewer and generic. Are we allowed to swear on this thing? I'm not sure.
Fuck yeah.
Okay, perfect. Generic bitch on their team, so I just did whatever the fuck they wanted me to do, and I was just there to smile and be happy about it. And I learned a ton from them. And Matt was like super risk taking with me. He got me brewing within like 2 weeks, and I had never touched a brew house. And so I started brewing there. I brewed there for 3 months or 4 months. Then when I went back to university, I partaked in a few like small university beer things. Definitely just took in the industry quite a bit. But while I was at my last university, I built basically my entire business plan, and I was very adamant that if I was going to write a thesis to get my degree, I'm going to do something I can follow up with. And then we decided not buying a brewery wasn't going to be passionate enough for us, and it wasn't going to be meaningful and not in the town that we wanted. And I was very adamant I wanted to live in Knowlton. I grew up in Montreal, but spent every second I had in Knowlton. And I've seen Knowlton's economy, up and down like crazy here. We've had crazy economic booms in this little town, and then we have had everything's closed. And so I was like, okay, a product that I can make is beer. I can definitely get it out of town to bring people back in town. I can make a really beautiful restaurant, which we do have restaurants, but nothing that's super attracting for big tourist populations. And what can I build that will slowly grow and slowly employ a mass amount of people? And so the brewery was just a natural course, and I love the industry, as I said. So then I said, okay, let's build the business plan and let's make it a reality. So while I was at university, I built that thesis plus the full business plan, and we are I'm fully 100% financed with traditional banks. So I'm with Investissement Québec and BDC for everything. Okay. And so it's fully financed, and we did that before university was basically done. And then when I got back, we started construction, and our construction was long because we built from scratch. But it's going really well. So
that's amazing, dude. What was the year that you took that road trip? Would that have been like
2000? And we opened 2019, 2018, 2017. I think it was the summer of 2017 that we did the road trip.
Okay.
I think.
And then the following summer you worked for Dunham.
No, that summer, 2017
the same one.
Summer.
Yeah, was the road trip.
Same summer I worked there. Yeah.
Okay,
and then when I got back from university, I took like a 2-week vacation just to chill out a bit, and then right after that, I went on to hire Toby Bouchard, who was our head brewer. Actually, it was 2016. It was 2016 this summer. I graduated in 2017. Sorry,
Because you went
dates
back.
are hard for me.
So many.
I'm like I have like really bad dyslexia and ADHD, and so remembering dates, names, and things like that are just like the absolute worst thing for me.
I try not to pound you with
Anyways,
dates.
yeah, it was 2016 when we drove across Canada. It was 2017 when I graduated, and then basically it took a year. It took 6 months to start doing the plans because we were starting with an existing building. Then we ended up just tearing down the building because there's too many limitations.
Right.
And then we hired Toby Bouchard as our head brewer and co-founder. And then we hired a chef as we were building this building. And we went through these crazy processes of branding, design, interior finishes, and just full construction mode. And from 2018, from the end of 2017, where we basically started construction, we actually only opened the door. No, we finalized plans at the end of 2017. We started construction in 2018, and we opened in 2019, November.
November 2019.
So it took a long time to do the construction. There was a lot of things in the construction process that definitely created headaches for us. But we won't get in there. There's no need to slander anyone. So,
Okay.
but yeah, it was just this long process, and we really started fine tuning every detail. And then Toby, when he started for us, I had extra room at my grandparents' horse barn. They had just recently sold all their horses, and it's a pretty bougie horse barn. And so it was pretty clean. So I set up a home brew kit there, and we homebrewed for about a year, just practicing recipes, having fun, just trying to be creative in this space while constructing the building and just having and dealing with all those little headaches. We're doing all these test batches in a pretty there's some nano breweries in the States that are using smaller kits than I had as a homebrew kit for testing, just because my dad he likes to throw his parties, so he can consume all the beer as he wants. So.
That's awesome, man. That's a really cool way to do it. I love that. So one thing I was thinking earlier, which is kind of, you did a perfect segue, was when you and your dad decided to do the brewery, did you have, like breweries have maybe like directions as far as the styles? Like, did you want to kind of do a bit of everything? Did you want to specialize in something? Like, what was your intention behind the products you guys were planning on making?
Yeah, so I don't know if you're liking this beer, but for me, it's this is exactly the style I want. I love English styles. I've played a lot of rugby in my past, and nothing like everything. The second a Guinness touches my mouth, I know it's Guinness, but I get this like nostalgia of playing rugby with all my boys and having like this amazing feeling. So I'm like, how can I go get this nice, easy drinking English vibe that I like with an artisanal side, with my creative aspect to it. And that's one of the things that we try to do is like, we pick a recipe and we try to really, really make it on style without anything going wrong in that beer. So no oxygen pickup, no crazy bitterness. The alcohol level is suitable for everything else. So everything's well balanced, and be true to the styles. And then, the market is asking for us to do fruited variations and overly hopped stuff, which we're going to do because we have fun doing it and we don't dislike it. But our staples are these just spot on, clean, easy drinking, medium, like 5 to low % alcohol, 4 to 5% alcohol, crispiness, and that's what we always wanted to do. My dad's point is he's always wanted a beer that you can drink and slam. It's not more simple than that. He just wants something easy and everyone's going to want to enjoy. And that's what we're basically trying to do. And kind of try to be traditional at the same time.
Okay, so that's I guess that explains like this special beer. Honestly, like we were saying before, like I really, really enjoy this style now. It's something that I traditionally haven't. Now I do. So this is great. I know we've got like cream ales and stuff coming up. So I mean, you saying that, and for the beers that we're going to try tonight, it all kind of that makes complete sense about the approach.
Yeah, and the other thing is like we're not naming our beers. Like if you want to jump into some of the branding stuff that we did,
yeah,
we went we went kind of crazy with our branding. We had designed a whole brand with another crew of people, and right before we decided that worked for us, we are like, no, that doesn't work. There's something that still bothered us, and we threw it all out. And it was a sick brand. We were happy with it. Like it was nice. There was just like one point that we weren't driving with. It was not this 3-panel style. It was much more single panel, and it was like old school. But it was just like it just had this bothersome for me, and it wasn't telling a story. I was like, I'm very adamant when I started the brewery. I was like, I don't want names on the beer. Because the first thing we should know about these products is what the hell they are, and the digestion of the information for me is yes, you should have something like something like this that is eye catchy, but the second you get close, you should be able to find the style of the beer first. I hate when I'm looking at something and I don't know what the hell it is. Yeah. I'm looking at the small write up and I can't figure it out, and so me it's style, the eye catch. And then where it's coming from, and then some of the beer details. But basically we worked with a firm. We worked with a really big branding firm for the original layout. We came in with a lot of information for them, but they didn't expect a lot of information, so they wanted this huge price for the design. But then they realized we had all this raft of information. We had built a binder of what we wanted, what we were looking for. And so they ended up giving us a huge discount, basically doing it for free. They exchanged the value of their design for beer. And we went on to win the gold medal for marketing and packaging in Canada in 2019 for the use of branding and slogan use and design. Well, not
this specific beer, but this new the one that made.
Yeah, this new layout. Technically, it was the IPA, the cream ale, the wheat ale, and the porter that won, because those are originals. But yeah, it's this 3-panel story that really goes with the la virée de la bière douce. Mm-hmm. You see, so this is the way it goes. Oh, I went the wrong way. Sorry. It's hard with the camera.
No.
But basically, it says this lady chopping her trees. She doesn't see her neighbor. But it's all good. They're having a beer together. He doesn't have a top of a head anymore. But and then this one is West Coast IPA, which there's a bear. Then you got your West Coast hippie, and then you got your hippie in a little bit of a reverse roll with the bear. But he's still happy. Cool. He's having a beer.
Of course.
So it's a fun thing. But then we've started to do things like working with whatever artists we want, like the ESB and the DDH Oat Cream, where it's a super flexible structure, but it's a structure that you can see the structure from far, and you don't even need to see our name. At least I'm hoping it's heading there, and it's Knowlton Co structure. I like a very strong layout in design.
Smart, dude. I love that. I mean, there's nothing more important, I think, these days than a strong brand. I mean, obviously the product has to be on point, but the market's too competitive to not be able to. I think back in the day, as if you've been into beer forever, you'll know that at the very least, I can speak to Quebec and Ontario. The beer designs, label designs were pretty shit. It took a while for the market to kind of catch on, and now it seems like breweries are paying attention to things like branding and social media and the marketing side of it. But it's really important because if this is going to be on the shelf with literally hundreds of other brands, it's got to stand out somehow.
I see my and this is one thing that we're working on. Me and my designer, because I have a full-time designer. No, he's not full-time with me, but I have a contract designer that I like to work with, just to do the fine tweaking. Okay. And we're trying to fine tweak our brand so that it works well when they're individualized versus as a group. It's definitely a question that we're having as a group. We find it works very well. It stands out if it's brewery by brewery in a group. It stands out really well compared to other things. But when they're individualized and singled out in styles, we also have this question: is not standing out enough? I'm not
Mm.
sure. Next to other more complex arts, are they standing out as an individualized product? One of the West Coast is alone in a West Coast section. Is it doing the vibe that we want? Anyways, we're working on a lot of stuff, so
I was actually
we
just
won't
thinking
be
that
doing
too.
it.
You won't be doing a rebrand or anything?
Well, we won't be doing a full rebrand, but just tweaking like slight little elements to make it pop a little bit more. It can have a lot of effect with the small design elements.
Mm, totally. Yeah, I was actually thinking. I noticed that a lot of stores recently tend to separate by style now, as opposed to like here's
Yeah,
all each brewery in a line. And yeah, you are right that it does have to stand out amongst all the whatever else in the IPA section. There's going to be pretty busy there. So if it's not
exactly.
really popping, and sometimes like I noticed, I imagine I don't know if you're like that too. It's not like you just maybe would gravitate towards something that you already know, or if you
Yeah, yeah.
or the question that you mentioned before, which I think was a really good point, where it was like I was trying to buy something for a friend in Ontario the other day. He asked for certain styles, and I was like looking, and some of them I pick it up. I'm like, what is this? Is this a lager? Is this a pit? Like I couldn't find what it
Yeah,
was.
it
Super
drives me
frustrating.
insane that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah. It drives me absolutely insane. Like I will not buy a product if I can't tell what it is from the shelf. Like from looking on the shelf, I'm just like not. I'm not gonna turn the can around and try to figure it out for you.
that's
Um,
a really good point.
anyways,
And go.
I'm just very specific on when it comes to usability and easeability for the consumer. I want it to be very easy to consume the information, and a structured layout like we have is what I came up with, what we came up with to do so. So,
Yeah, I love
um,
it. I think it's really cool, man. It's super unique. Do you want to tonight? We got like 6 beers we're going to get through. Do you want to jump on to the next
let's
one?
do it.
Which one were we
Yeah,
doing
let's
again?
do it.
Remind me. I know we just talked about it beforehand.
What are you feeling? You think we're gonna get to the six? We can jump
I
to an
reckon we
IPA, or
could.
we can go to the cream ale.
You tell me, brother. Maybe we do. Should we do? Let's
Let's
do
do
the
the
cream
West
then.
Coast.
The West Coast. The orange can,
Yeah, West
please.
Coast.
Yes, West Coast. Let's do that one. Beautiful. So West Coast
Perfect.
IPAs, I think, are coming back. That's the one.
Yeah,
Uh,
so we actually this was one of our first beers that we had, and it's one of our staples. It'll be sticking around.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. So if people sort of notice, like I guess you can't really tell here, but this one here is kind of like that smooth, like it looks like it's like a flagship, whereas this has that
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
more textured.
yes. So one's a ball can, and one's a heart print.
Oh yeah, hot print, sick.
Yeah. So one's heart print, and these ones are ball printed because the volume
Okay,
that we're going through, we at least when we bought these, we could do the single SKU,
okay.
of them, but now they're at 1 million cans of SKU, so we're
Jeez,
not doing that anymore.
no, wow,
Um,
that's insane. Woof,
yeah,
smells
so this
great.
one,
6%.
yeah, 6%, very classic West Coast.
Yeah, yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother. Smells
I
great.
think our lighting is quite different. Ours is a
Oh yeah, I really think West Coast are like such an interesting style right now because I think it's like the pendulum coming back a little bit from the influx of or the overdoneness of haze, and
yeah,
they're
totally.
still not where I think they should be as far as volume of different ones available. But I feel like when people get their hands on it, I'm like, yeah, fucking West Coast, yes, like you know what I mean,
Yeah,
like
when we first opened, everyone's like, "When's your New England coming out?" And I was
which
like, "Nah, we're doing a West Coast because that's for me. A New
yeah,
England is there's things with New England you're gonna see even in our Oat Cream IPA, which I kind of reference as our potential New England style, but we're not. It's not a New England style, obviously,
mm-hmm.
but it's what we're probably gonna get as close as we're allowing ourselves to get to it.
Okay,
Um, because for me, these like are much more classic recipes. It's a much more, you know, clean, crisp grain bed. You can get a little bit alcohol in it, a little caramelly, but you're trying to go get like a nice, refreshing, hoppy flavor. You can get a little bit of bitterness, get your fruit aspects. So like this is Galaxy. There's Galaxy in here, so it's it's got that. It's got the really classic. It almost has the classic East Coast hops in it,
Mm-hmm.
but with a use in a West Coast style, and it gives that nice little tropic smell and everything in it. But you're gonna get that easy drinkability of a West Coast.
So it's got Nugget, Mosaic, Galaxy, and Amarillo, which is a
Yeah,
great lineup. So I
yeah,
imagine the Nuggets is probably the bittering hop.
yeah. Of course, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's in the last. It's in the boil.
I love it.
And then the Mosaic is also present in the boil, but after that, it's also dry hopped with Mosaic, Galaxy, and Amarillo, but a fair bit of Galaxy.
Okay. Yeah, man. It's not even like I guess I guess I'm saying it was not overly like it's not crazy bitter. You know, sometimes some West Coast are like
No,
these like tongue stripping, like they were back in the day. Not like many are now, but
yeah.
more.
So we actually do an old school. We do an old school IPA as well, and that I would go get that flavor that you get in like 2018, 2008, where yeah, I was definitely not legal of age, but I was close enough, um, and and it was like just this bitter bomb that had a nice fruitiness, but it's much more of a bitter bomb. And you have your first glass, and you're like, oh. Then you have your second glass, and you're like, oh, now your tongue's getting used to it. Now you're getting everything you want.
Mm,
In our old school, we go get that base. In our West Coast, we're trying to get that refreshing, like easy drinking style from that refreshing fruitiness and the hoppiness that we want, but with a grain bed that is very simple and easy drinking. Like
mm.
for me, that what it was, the West Coast was, at least for me, when I was on the West Coast, it was always this clean, crisp, um, yes, bitter side, but always a little bit fruity.
Yeah, it's definitely like I see what you mean as far as the new world hops, I guess you want to call them, what it's delivering. So
Yeah,
it's like you've toned down, like the more now I'm sitting with it a bit, I'm getting a little bit of that resiny dankness on there, but
yeah,
it's super mellow. Um, maybe like overall, it's not like too crazy for maybe for people who I still meet people now these days who don't drink IPAs because I think they're too bitter or too hoppy, and they don't really know.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Some people don't
and
really go.
that's what I'm. As I said, I'm trying to make products that are going to be very easy to drink multiple times of, and you can sit down and have a lot of these cans easily in a row. I really don't want to ever make a product where you have a single can and you love your experience of that single can, but going to get a second one might be too intense. I'm really trying to find that
Mm,
make those products that you can just open one after the other and just enjoy,
yeah.
because you don't need to be overly powered in any of those flavors. If I wanted to go get more bitterness, I definitely bring a lot more body to it and a lot more, probably a little bit more alcohol and everything. So everything is balanced, but you still get that harsh bitterness. You'll see in the DDH, definitely stronger on the bitter side. So,
Okay, what style is the DDH one? Is it more of a West
so
Coast, or is it kind of in
we
between?
call it well, it's in between. It's an oat cream IPA, so we put a ton of oats in it to give it a little bit more of a body and a little bit more of a haze,
Hmm.
and we're putting a ton of hops in it, and so it's got a little bit of a greeny side, and it all depends on how we definitely have a lot of hop residue in it, so it all depends on how you treat it in your fridge and whatnot. That it can be very much on the green side, or it's kind of calm down and become more of a clean, easy, less bitter,
Hmm.
less green. But it all depends on what you like. This is what I'm going to get as close to a probably East Coast IPA for a long time.
Okay.
Um, um, because for me, it's not a style that I really enjoy. And for my brewing team, we've never enjoyed them. Yes, uh, we don't enjoy the style. There's individual of them from different microbreweries that we've enjoyed, but as a whole style, I've not necessarily appreciated. I just find it a waste of hops, and you can go get those hop flavors without just tossing 100 kilos of hops into a beer and saying it's good. So
That's fair. That's
yeah.
fair. Yeah, I find
So
that.
yeah. So this is
Sorry, go.
you. Do you like the East Coast, you or?
Oh yeah, it's my jam. It's my thing. Yeah, big time.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like I understand when people don't mess with it. It's I was obsessed with it, like to a ridiculous degree because they didn't have it here. In 2016, I found one brewery in Ontario that did it, and that was it. And so the only way to get it was to travel. And I was an immigrant and wasn't actually able to travel at the time, so it was difficult to sort of get hold of it and then discover it. So I had to sort of wait until Canadian breweries kind of caught up. Yeah, even to this day, it's probably still my favorite thing. But if I really had these days, though, it's interesting because it's so prevalent and there's so many good ones, but there's equally as many not so good ones. The lagers were coming back, and that's something that I've really appreciated. And that comes into like the last beer. We had the ESB, whereas that would be a style typically I wouldn't be interested in. But getting into light, like if I could go, when I get down to Knowlton, the first thing I'm gonna look for, give me the crispy. That's what I want first. Like regardless of any brewery I go to, that's the first thing I want now. So it's an interesting. I'm still very interested in the haze, but
Yeah.
the other things are sort of are taking over the interest. And I don't know if that's happening for everybody yet. Hence, probably maybe some people still have a bit of the obsession, and breweries that focus on that are still sort of the ones that we
Yeah,
consider
totally.
that.
And for me, like I said, like our lineup is always going to involve a ton of easy drinking, crisp product that should be on style, that have these accents and very well balanced. But we're going to always have our probably 5 or 6 products on the side that we're just boosting up like crazy, either with fruits or different hops or different yeast, and just having like total wacky time with it. That leads us into our expansion where we got a crazy plan to get into founders and a huge barrel room and do all these wacky, crazy beers, probably underneath a different brand, but underneath the same roof. But go get this crazy, whatever creative side and whatever amount of sour we want to put in a beer, because I've had the craziest sours from a bunch of places and love them. But I always had a little bit of an issue because I haven't built my tolerance up yet to those crazy sours. I always found like I started way too powerful and never really started appreciating. And so what we've started doing is doing these really light kettle sours, and our intensities are slowly getting higher and higher in our kettle sours. And now I'm at like the highest kettle sour, the most acidic kettle sour that we've made so far. I'm loving it. And then I recently opened like a crazy sour from Dunham, that's known to be one of their stronger sours, and I drink it and I'm like, oh, now I get all this, I get the more complexities in this beer, and I'm enjoying it. But I always find people with like, it's something that's happened with our local population. My cream ale recipe started way more simple than this. I started with a cream ale recipe that was designed for like Coors Light and Bud Light drinkers for Knowlton.
Okay.
Because I know my local population don't drink microbrew. Now this has a lot more complexity in it than it did beforehand, and I slowly built it up. And now most of my local population are coming in. They're drinking West Coast. They're drinking my Russian double imperial stout. They're drinking a lot more complicated beer because I feel like we've moved their palates towards what they've started to be able to appreciate. When they first came in, if I gave them the West Coast, they would have just left. And so it's like for us, we kind of slowly, and we will slowly build our complexity, but over different brands and different elements. So
That's sick. I got so many different questions from all these different things you said. I think we'll take. I definitely want to get into the future plans. We'll probably do that maybe towards the end a bit more because that sounds phenomenal. One thing I always notice, and I really find this undervalued in craft beer, is exactly what you're just talking about. That you have created really crushable, approachable beers for a population primarily local that maybe aren't craft beer drinkers, but now you've been able to move their palates and you've converted them into craft beer drinkers, bringing more people into the industry. And I feel like with the sort of the focus on what's the most hyped and craziest shit, those beers typically, I think New England's are definitely bringing people in, but I think that it's really underrated because people just want to go to a bar like, oh, if they're a local, like, cool, this new brewery, this place looks fun, let's go here. Oh, what have you got that tastes like Coors that I drink? Then you're like, we'll try this cream ale. You're like, oh, all right, this is cool. I like the place. I want to like it. And then as they go, they're like, all right, well, I've had 3 cream ales. What else can I try? And they'll just go.
And their 3 cream ales have slowly, because I knew where I wanted to end my cream ale at, but I knew that my cream ale, it's very easy for a beer drinker, for a normal person. This is the beer that is the most introductory. But I knew that my local population was scared of everything, so I started pretty differently, and I slowly built it up to what we're very happy with. And it didn't take me that long. It only took, I don't know, 6 months or whatever, to get to that. But we knew the end product that we were going for. We just didn't want to scare our local population all that much. And it was nice because at the time when we opened, we didn't have enough volume to actually be selling on the road. We only had enough volume for inside consumption. So we weren't worried about the market seeing any difference because we knew what we were doing in-house to build our. And now I have locals that come to the brewery and they drink. They're there for lunch, have a beer, and then they go to their job, and then they come after work, and they're there for 4 or 5 beers, and they head home. A bunch of genuine, awesome, classic townies. So
that's sick, man. So it's like it's really cool to see, to hear that from your perspective firsthand, and also it's even cooler that it was intentional, that you sort of are providing all of this, and now that you're able to distribute, it's like it's continuing that, because I don't know, I feel like more breweries are leaning towards the maybe that's a bit of a reach. It's either way, I just feel like it's really dope when a brewery is doing that and approaching, making approachable beers, that people can get into, because I think at this point, one of the most important things we can do with craft beer, like, cool, you're going to make some haze for people like me or whatever, like, sweet, I'm already in. You don't need to get me in anymore. So what's more important than appeasing my taste buds is getting these new people in, because we need to grow the industry. I feel
and that's the big thing is in Quebec, we're so saturated with the amount of microbreweries we have in Quebec.
It's a lot.
And so the problem is now is Molson was all nervous at one point because they're having this growth of microbreweries, and we're stealing their industry. We're stealing their industry still. But now we've gone to such a massive group that unfortunately what was before, which was not seen as competition on each other because we're looking at the big guys competition, now we're looking at each other as competition.
Right.
Because Molson we're growing, and we're in the same market space as everyone else, and we're stuck like, okay, there's only a specific amount of actual people in Quebec that drink microbrew. There's still a shit ton of people that drink Michelob Ultra and Coors Light in Quebec, and they're not going anywhere. I go to my buddy's house, like some of my best buddies who know that their best friend has a microbrewery. I'll show up with a 2-4 or 6, and everyone's and a lot of my friends are fucking holding around their Michelob Ultra, and it's still a very I still have to fight to get my buddies on board.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it is what it is.
What do they say? Like, what are you're like? Hey, man,
well,
are they curious, or they just like?
No, they still drink my beer. Let's not shy away here.
Okay,
they'll still have my beer, but they'll have 4 or 5 of my product, and then go back to the ultra light stuff or whatever, and it's fine. They do their thing. But again, there's this huge market in Quebec that we haven't tapped in, is the beer drinkers that are not drinking micro, and there's tons of them. Yeah. And so trying to make that product that brings them on board and slowly converts them to joining our market section will continually hurt Molson and allow us to have a customer base that allow us not to compete so much. But for a microbrewery in Quebec to become a larger player, no, it's going to be practically impossible just because of how many people we have, because of how many competitors we have in the industry, and well-established breweries. Right. And that's why we're looking. Yeah, we're pretty happy with the volume we're producing. We're hyper efficient. We're literally running with one brewer, and we're doing a pretty good volume. We have 300 locations. We're in 300 different distribution points. We have our tap house our tap room, who's doing almost 260% than I budgeted for consumption this year, we're almost 260% over that budget.
Wow.
Either I don't know how to do budgets, or people are just drinking way more. It might be a little bit of both, but I was pretty confident on my budget beforehand, and so we're making a lot of beer and we're super lean, and that's where we're like, okay, are we comfortable with this volume? Do we need to keep growing on the brewery side, or do we stay like this very fun art, this volume that we have, but then get into beverages, like get into water, get into soda, get into juice manufacturing, because we're agriculturally rich in this area,
Mm.
but we have a lot of loss of agriculture turnover product. Like when it comes to the growing season, we lose a lot here because there's not a lot of transformation. It's a lot of small players. So giving them a direct to market place to convert their stuff into transformable goods, so purees for other breweries or canned juices or whatever, is kind of the direction we're thinking of growing the business in. But also huge barrel room, big founder room, and I'm hoping the permits for distilling in Quebec or the regulations around distilling in Quebec change, because basically I would love to have a distillery too. It's a little too regulated to actually to function in Quebec at the moment, but it's slowly opening up. So.
Okay, all right. Well, there's a ton of different things that you can do. What do you think the best way is then for both you, but for the beer industry as a whole, whether it's in Quebec or beyond? What do you think the best way of bringing these new people into beer is, or converting like people like your mates who are Michelob drinkers into craft beer?
Well, it's also there's a lot of things to it. Well, in Quebec, definitely we need a little bit more of a social media presence in terms of a industry, not necessarily just as an individual brand. In terms of an industry, I think I don't want to shoot shots at the MBQ, but I think the MBQ can be as a big partner and group of microbreweries of Quebec. They could be putting way more time in promoting the growth of our market versus supplying us with information and trying to give us programs and whatever. They do well and it's good, but a lot of their focus should be in really doing market capture for us. But again, it's a complicated thing for them to go do, because how do they go grab the market capture? It's the individual microbreweries are still doing that. We're already doing our big social media presence. We're already doing advertisement. But as a collective, to convince bigger groups to come join us, I think that the collective, which is the MBQ, could be doing way more for our individual needs in terms of grabbing that market for us. But again, I love the MBQ and have no problems with them. But it's just definitely for me a market. Like as a collective group, we could be going to get more people than just on our own. Individually.
Yeah, it's such a tough one.
Yes.
I know I didn't mean to put you on the spot with that one. Just it's an interesting sort of question as to how that, because everybody wins if more people are converted.
And that's exactly it. And I think also microbreweries have to realize that we can have people that are doing just for the craziest micro drinkers. Do your crazy IPAs, do your crazy whatever you want. But the person that's trying to do that approachable product is very important for us, because the only person that's going to be converted into our industry is on an approachable product that then gets into the more complicated stuff, or it's an easier segue, at least a less abrupt segue. Because if you drank Molson all your life or Michelob Ultra and you get dropped a double IPA in your hands, I can understand why you might not want to make that jump. It definitely has a lot of stepping stones before getting there to build up your tolerance and taste buds. Some people have amazing taste buds and they're able to take on that crazy difference. But definitely for me, I'm one of those guys that loves to build their flavors and build their tolerance to food and build their. If I eat something and I hate it, I'm the type of guy who keeps ordering it. Like if I go to a menu and I hate it, it's because I probably don't know, my body doesn't understand that I should like it. Like I hated cilantro. Cilantro tasted to me like soap for the longest time of my life,
Yeah, I heard that's the thing.
and I just kept eating it. Now it just tastes like glorious freshness in my mouth. It
Hmm.
just tastes like fresh, and but for the longest time it was just soap. And I've done that with a lot of things. I used to hate Greek yogurt. Now I love Greek yogurt. You know, it's building those tolerances, reminding yourself that it is good. It's going to be good. Your body just got to figure out that flavor and that why is it good. Anyways, that's what I try to evolve people throughout our beers, and that's what
Interesting.
It is what it is.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I wonder, because I feel like if you can get someone into a brewery, then you can basically take the experience from there. Because maybe if you look at like wine, like anyone who's been to a winery, they take you through like, all right, well, this is our Chardonnay, and this is our Riesling, and they go through all the whites and then into the reds. Anyone who's sort of done that and enjoyed that experience, you can get that in beer. But it's more like, I think the challenge is to get them into the industry, into it in the first place, and then
So
yeah,
I've had enough clients, and I let's say if I'm at the brewery, because we have now a secondary office which is just a kilometer away from the brewery. We outgrew our offices at the brewery, and let's say if I'm at the brewery recently and I hear someone, I don't like beer, I don't drink beer, just give me a soda. I usually go there and I'm like, Mrs., I know you don't like Molson X, I know you don't like Coors Light, but let me try to find you something that you'll like, or sir, and they're always like, no, I just don't like beer. I'm like, okay, I can promise you, I can give you this. Do you like fruits? And they're like, oh, I kind of like seltzers, and I give them a berry delicious, and they're like, oh, this is great. It's super. And then I start them there, and then I slowly go to the grisette, which is spicy and it's more complex on their grain bed, maybe a little less hoppy, and then they're at there, and then I can easily get them into a wheat ale. If I'm in a wheat ale, then they can drink anything on the menu.
right. So it's
But
more
if I started them on a cream ale, they'd be like, no, that's just a blonde beer. I don't like blonde beer, you know. And I'm
Right.
like, all right, well,
beer that tastes like beer. Yeah, that's the hardest sell. Doesn't matter how fire the crispy is. You're never going to convince any. I really think that's the least likely style to. We did do that one.
should we
Cream
try
ale
the
time.
cream ale?
Let's do it, bro.
Yeah, might as well. We've got three other ones to go, so.
Yeah, might as well keep it moving. I'm just gonna. Do you want to start talking about it? My girlfriend's just busy, so I'm gonna go grab it. It'll be 2 seconds. We'll just start talking about it. It'll be 2 seconds.
Yeah. So this is a little cream ale right here. We actually lagerize it. So we leave it in, and we do a clarification in it. So we leave it in the fermenter for about 7 weeks. Really simple blonde beer here. Nothing crazy. 100% hop from Busty hops in Quebec, which is our only 100% hopped beer in Quebec that's on our shelves on a regular basis. We do have pretty big hop contracts with Hop Connect and a few others.
Love it.
But we do have plans in the future to be making our own hops and having a pretty big hop production. So
that's sick. You got
so
space
yeah, this
for
is
that?
a cream ale.
Yep.
Huh?
You got space for the?
We have space. I'm fortunate to have access to a lot of property. In terms of in the area, like I said, the area is a very agriculturally rich area. So it's never there's a lot of property around here.
That's amazing. That's perfect.
So yeah, this cream ale has a cool little grain bed. It's got some corn in it, which gives it, I guess it gives it the cream name, but it really gives it a nice little corny flavor in the beer.
Okay.
A little sweetness. I think the reason for adding corn, I think people might shoot me for this. It just you get this sweetness in those generic beers because you got that cornstarch in those beers that are like definitely sweet, and this kind of gives you that sweetness without necessarily being cornstarch. It's pure corn, crushed corn,
right?
And it gives you that reminding of like bringing that sweetness side of the beer.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
Yeah, solid. Cream ale. So cream ales are. I already did it. It's okay. Thank you so much. So cream ales are a unique style because it isn't. It kind of gets lumped under like what we would call the crispy boy lager pils and that type of thing. and it is obviously it's an ale. It's not a lager. What is Can you define a cream ale? Because I feel like it's a style I drank a shit ton of like a decade or so ago when I was getting into beer and starting to discover styles. There was a ton of cream ales in 2011, 2012. So but these days, not so much.
Yeah, so for me, it's a lagerized ale, obviously, that like what you just said. But it's as clean, as crisp, and as beery as it can get, with a little bit of a sweet side. It's really got no complexity to it. You know, it's got to be as simple as it is.
Yes.
Try not to have any off flavors. It's one of those beers that has it's actually a very hard beer to really hit on the head because it's got nothing in it. So having there's nothing there's not a lot of hops, there's not a lot of grain, there's not a lot of anything there, right? So it's a balance game. Unlike the hoppy stuff or the West Coast, where you could have certain grain things that are off, and then they're going to be they're not going to be as present because you have everything shadowing it. Here, if anything's off, then it's in your face.
Totally. That's a really great point. I noticed you got nugget hops and then crystal from Bastien. Alex is a friend of mine, so that's dope.
Yeah. So as I was saying, this is 100% hop Quebec.
All Quebec. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
I'm hoping we're going to continue being able to get our nugget from him and our crystal for this specific beer. Our nugget for other beers are not necessarily just his. Just because of the volume that we can register with him is not necessarily enough. He does do a lot, but he's got a lot of Quebec breweries that are after him, right?
Yeah.
And so for us, I don't know. Maybe we'll be able to do it forever. I'm hoping that we're always going to be able to have enough volume for it. But it is what it is. So.
Yeah. No, it's dope, man. What I did want to ask you sort of before was this obviously, you know, like the West Coast, like the sort of unicolor, the shiny, the ball cans that you have. The 4 flagship beers. So it was the cream ale, the West Coast, there was like a
wheat ale, the American wheat ale, and the English porter.
Porter, that's what it was. So why did you choose those 4 styles to become flagships?
Yeah, so you can actually see them behind me. So that's the American wheat ale, and the porter is the green one, the rugby player right there.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And so we wanted to come out with a flagship that is, you know, classic in terms of we know we need an IPA, but we know it's not an East Coast, so it's got to be a West Coast for us. We want something that's well balanced, whatever. Cream ale because we need something approachable for our local population to really buy into, and also something that's generically slammable. That's going to be enjoyable on a grander scale.
Why did you choose a cream ale, say, instead of a blonde ale, instead of a lager or a pilsner or something?
Well, it's a style that's done a little less in Quebec, at least.
Yeah.
In Ontario, it started to be taken off. There's a couple of really good cream ales in Ontario, and also like I've generically always loved cream ales around, and blonde beer didn't have a very distinct like. There's tons of them on the market. To be different, I wanted something a little different. To be a little bit more unique, having something with corn and having a little bit of a different style available. It's also something that was very present, like you said, disappeared, and it's going to have a comeback, and we're trying to be there before that. We also think that it's not a lager, so you get a little bit of certain aspects that are beneficial becoming not a lager.
I guess speed being one of them.
Yeah, a little bit. You don't get much more speed here. You're still lagerizing this, right?
Oh, so you still how many weeks?
Yeah, sure. So we're fermenting at full temp as a regular ale, and then we're sitting at a crash temperature for 5 weeks.
Oh shit, eh? Okay.
I didn't know really try to clarify it as much as possible. That's what I meant by lagerizing. It's a lagerized ale. It's like a Kolsch, right? A Kolsch is a lagerized ale as well.
Yeah.
Kolsch, you're using an ale yeast, but you're really really standardizing it as a lager. It's just for that first 3-4 days of fermentation. You know, you're going to grab that, and then you're going straight to a crash. You're doing your diacetyl rest. You're doing all this. You're doing this with your beer, but underneath a different yeast condition.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So yes, we went with this one just because it's different. We were always big fans of it. We almost decided to do a Kentucky Common. I don't know if you ever had a Kentucky
I've
Common.
had a California Common, but not a Kentucky one.
Yeah, so it's
Similar?
yeah. Anyways, it's very similar in product. It's all the same. It's basically, California Common. I'm sure it's very similar to the Kentucky as the California as the what's the other common? They're all very similar beers.
Right.
We almost did it, but there was just something that we didn't necessarily like about it, and the branding for us was just an off point. And so we decided to go with a cream ale, which is a very approachable. And then it also makes people think, is it going to be creamy? But yes, it's a little creamy, but it's not meant to be creamy necessarily. No. We would love to put this on nitro one day, but it's definitely a little bit more challenging aspect. Then we went with the wheat ale.
Yes.
Our wheat ale is basically our answer to a pale ale. Basically, it's a hoppy wheat ale. It's really interesting because depending on who drinks it, they get a really hardcore side white beer, and then some people drink it and they like, oh wow, it's bitter and it's very pale ale-y side and almost IPA, and it's really interesting to see how people's taste buds take it. Because we have orange peel in it, we have tons of orange peel in it, we have a nice amount of hops in it, a grain bed that's very classic American wheat ale. So it's a little bit foggy and everything. Pour it in a glass. It's got a nice little body. You drink it. You smell it. It can be. Some people pick it up as a white beer, and some people pick it up as a pale ale. So it's a great cross between for a lot of people. And for me, it's the best stepping stone to move people from a blonde beer to get them into an IPA eventually. And that's where I'm pushing everyone. I push everyone up the food chain because for them to come down the food chain on beer is not a big problem, but to get them up there is more challenging. So if we got them to the IPA, then we've got them locked in, and they're going to come back down and drink other things for us. And then for the porter, well, I always think Quebec breweries or the Quebec porter market has kind of screwed up porters. For me, it's always these American porters for me, it's always these thick, syrupy, like super heavy beers. But for me, an English porter is like a after-work refreshing beer, like a protein shake that's like light and easy drinking.
Right.
And that's what our porter is. It's a 4.8% beer. It's light in profile. It's a dark beer. But it's not light enough to be a brown ale. And it's got a nice head on it. It's meant to really just be able to be basically a slammable dark beer. And that's what I've always experienced in terms of porters in England for me. And that's basically what we did with that one.
Kept the tradition. Okay.
Kept that tradition.
Is there a challenge getting, because I've heard this from other breweries, is it a challenge getting people to try the darker beers because there's an automatic like fear of darker beers from a lot of folks?
So we don't do. So one thing that we're very happy about is us. We have a pretty well regulated season for our dark beers.
Mm-hmm.
But no, our porter is one of our best selling beers. We've got a good pickup of it. I think a lot of people are finally figuring out that it's actually not like a scary beer. This one's a light drinking summer beer almost. It's great in the winter, but during the summer, it's actually it does the same effect that our blonde beers do. It's a lighter profile, but it happens to be dark. You get a little bit of chocolatey, you get a little bit of coffee, but it's not the thick, scary beer. Yeah, we have a Russian Imperial Stout that is like 9.5, 10%. Yeah, that one is definitely slower to the market, but it was aged on barrels for 10 months, and it's got this crazy tannic side to it. And that one's slower to the market, but I'm also selling that product at $8 a can, and people are reselling it at $11 a can because it was crazy amount of grain, crazy amount of time, and everything, right? And so just the price comparison of a more complex, darker beer is harder for the market to absorb it. And that's what I think a lot of Quebec breweries are doing, these more complicated dark beers, thinking that it would attract more people, but they're pricing themselves out. I find these double stouts and everything, when you're adding a bunch of maple syrup and you're adding all of this stuff to it to get it attractive, well, you're pricing yourself out of a lot of things. So for me, dark beers sell well. Like we've done a stout, we've done a black IPA. Those are definitely have different markets than this porter. This porter has gone out very well. Our red ales sell like crazy, which is not a dark beer, but it is darker
on
in
the
color
track
than
to
this.
it.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I haven't seen much. And then we've done variations of this porter. We've done a coffee porter. We've done a coconut porter, and they seem to sell decent. The coffee porter sells really well. Cocoa porter, not the best
Really?
sell in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, I kind of understand it. I wasn't part of that conception, and I definitely think there was something that I feel like we went a little too roastery coffee versus the coconut side of it, and I don't think the balance was made there. But it is what it is.
I know coconut is a bit of a polarizing adjunct. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's kind of like cilantro.
Well, it's also it's also so fat based, right? So it kills
the head.
Coconut it kills the head completely, and you almost can get a greasy layer on your beer if you have that. So it's not the
I don't know what the
most
best
perfect
adjunct. No, you are right. I fucking love coconut porters though. That's why I'm surprised. Like it's one of my favorite sort of thing. I feel like porters are insanely underrated as far as a beer style.
I also think it was one of the first modifying beers that we've done, and that was in 2019. It was like 3 months in. It was one of the first things we've done, and I think we definitely screwed up in the process how we process the coconut.
Okay.
But since then, we toasted
it. Okay.
You toasted it, but for me, it still wasn't picked up properly in the beer, and I've had coconut infused beers, water, like everything, and I've had like this beautiful coconut flavor. The one we made, I think we missed something on it, definitely. But anyways, it is what it is.
At the same token, like it's cool that you're even doing variants of, and I think it's more interesting that you're doing variants of like a flagship beer that people would, it's that old reliable product that's always around and then like, hey, here's like a slight twist on it, even if that twist is just subtle. Let's do it.
Perfect segue to the berry. Yeah,
the berry, yes.
Segue to the berry.
Ready? I'm telling my girlfriend now. Perfect. Love it. It's the pink one, yeah?
Yeah, it's the pink one.
Perfect.
Very delicious.
Okay, now this is you're doing great with the segues with all the beers, bro. I appreciate it.
No problem.
This is it's a berry version of the cream ale. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we do this weird thing at the brewery where we do citrus in our wheat ale every year. We do these radlers, the fermented radlers.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the back go right here. Look at that.
Yeah.
So we do these. Okay.
We do these fermented radlers basically, where we're just dumping a bunch of citrus in our wheat ale. As I said, our wheat ale has this beautiful like white side to it.
Okay.
And then we can accentuate that by giving it a bunch of citrus fruit. So we've done lime in the wheat ale. We've done Cara, we've done mixes of blood orange, and
Nice.
last year we decided to do a 5 Alive version of it,
Sick.
and
Oh,
that
that's
one
cool.
went really really well. With the cream ales, we decided only to do berries in the cream ales,
Okay. Yeah.
just because we find the sweet side of the cream ale that we have gives a nice
This kind of
side to
works.
the acidity of the berries.
It's an interesting concept. I don't think I've ever had a fruited cream ale.
Yeah, so this is basically our answer to the seltzer
Nice.
market.
Okay.
So many people are saying that we should be doing a seltzer. I'm like, just try this cream ale berry, and they're like, oh wait, this is sick. You get this beautiful sweet berry side, acidic
Yeah.
side, and then you get a little bit of maltiness, but it's totally enjoyable from the beer side. And this is basically our answer to that seltzer market.
It's insanely
And these
creamy
gets
too.
Yeah, well, that's just the added re-fermentation, because we don't do the lagerization with this, right?
Ah.
Because
Because
because like if you were to have this beer without the fruit in it,
hmm
it wouldn't be clear like this,
right.
because of the different fermentation process we go through it, because we can't do a lagerization after four days, because we have to continue fermenting to a point where we're happy to add the fruit, and have it
Right.
at a place that it's at a fermentation level high enough, the yeast count level high enough, so that we can go eat the sugar in the fruit, so we're not making bombs.
Mm,
Um,
okay. That makes complete sense. Um, yeah, it's a very different experience to the cream ale. So obviously it's like the cream ale base, um, with the
yeah,
berries in it. So like you said, this serves the same purpose as like a seltzer or something like that for people. Yeah.
yeah, it's just our base that we thought that it would be funner to actually use a beer base,
Mm-hmm.
and and for me it almost makes, for me it's more enjoyable space, because I find that a lot of seltzers like overly sweet, and you taste a lot of sugar. I've had amazing seltzers where they're just dry as hell, beautiful fruit flavor and just dry, and those are my favorites. Um, but I'm not comfortable making a seltzer on this particular brand.
Okay.
Knowlton Co brand should be standalone beer brand. Eventually, we'll probably get a seltzer. Like there's no doubt about it. But it'll be a standalone product,
Different brand. Yeah.
its own line.
Makes sense.
Um, because for me, I don't want any uh, mistakes being made.
Yeah. That's
And I
fair.
always think there'll be a space for that Knowlton Co cream ale fruited. The amount that we sell when it comes to the fruited product, the cream ale fruited product, is just, I can't make enough of it from May to mid September. I could potentially just make this,
Right.
and I would
You
sell it
do.
all, but we refuse to do it. I'm very adamant that we're only allowed to ferment 2 fruited products at a time at the brewery, and we have
Okay.
10 fermenters.
Right.
Um, I put my foot down, um, on that. Like at some point, like a year ago, um, or a year and a half ago, like when summer was last year or whatever, or 2 years ago. Um, at some point, I think I had 6 fermenters at the time, and I think I had 4 fruited beers in the things, but
Right.
I
So
wasn't I wasn't I wasn't maintaining. I was in control of production at the time, and I'm like, this is cool, and I know it's going to sell, but it's really also just not that cool, because now we're just becoming
that's
some sort of
fruit.
fruit beverage producer with alcohol in it. Uh, I'm like, we're losing our, like, we're not making beer right now. We're making fruit
Like fruit little cocktail
alcohols.
things.
Yeah, fruit cocktails. And so now I have a very strict regulation that it's 2 products at a time during the summer, that only allowed to have fruit in it, and one of those is a sour. Always having a kettle sour going, because our kettle sours sell really well, and so we only have room for either a berry or a wheat ale being fruited. Not much more than that. Um,
Right.
Minus, I might have broken my rule this next week, because I really want to do a cherry gazette, so I might have put my foot down on it today. I'm just remembering talking to the guys today. I might have said that add some cherry to the gazette, but we'll see if that's happening or not.
Some rules are made to be broken, right?
Yeah,
You know.
exactly.
Okay, so that is the. So this is. By the way, I don't think we mentioned the fruits in it. It's.
Yeah, so it's strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, and blackberries.
which is great. I feel like I'm really getting like a nice juicy red berry,
So
all across from the nose to the body. Yeah.
So this was so we had been doing berry beers in our cream house for a while, and last year in February, Toby Bouchard, who was our original master brewer, left us to go start a pizza place in Montreal. Really cool place. He's doing great, and I'm super excited for him. But fortunately, one of our current our employees that were working there, one of them, he stepped up to the plate and started taking over production and everything, and he actually became a partner in the brewery pretty fast. His name's Stu Ferlardo. He's an amazing dude, and he's like my right hand man. He does so much for us and for me. But he decided like 6 months ago, I want to put these in here. He was like super adamant. Very delicious is mine, and he had never put his foot down because he's not a he's not a beer guy. He doesn't know the market. He was just so good at costing and like the business side and running it. Now he's getting into the market. He's loving it. But on the organization side, managing staff and production schedules, he was just a beast at it. And this is the first time he was like, "No, I want this beer," and he like put it in the schedule by himself, and it was pretty funny. And now he came out with a new one that he's getting the brewers to make, which is he's calling it a pale ale, which I'm not sure about the name there, but it's just basically it's just like a session kolsch that's going to be basically a light beer, just a really crushable light beer. Might do a little like a little hop addition, or do a little like lime or something in it. We'll see. Or it might just be a session kolsch that we can just crush out at 3.5%. And so he's all happy about that. But yeah, these are one of his favorite products. So I told him do whatever he wants. He'll have fun with it. And throwing berries in a cream ale, I find will never go wrong. So
No, man. It's an interesting base. Like, it works well because the cream ale itself isn't, like you said, like, it's such a funny thing the way you said it was just like there's nothing in this, where like obviously there's something in it, but it's like it's a very inoffensive beer is probably a way to put it. It's not too bitter, it's not too herbal, like it's the Michelob Ultra crowd could fuck with the cream ale.
Yeah, and I'm the first one to admit it, that the cream ale is nothing fancy to this thing, man. I'm making this beer so that we can drink it and we can introduce anyone to it. And when you want a refreshing beer and it's fucking sunny out, it's a great option.
Yeah.
That for me, at least for my taste buds, when I'm sweating and everything, grabbing a double IPA is definitely not my move. Grabbing an IPA is definitely not my move.
Right.
Man, I used to grab Molson X's, man. I still love Molson X's when I go to the hockey game. And when I'm in the Bell Center, I can't get away from that. I can't get away from that. But when I come here, I want something that I can represent and be happy with and be blonde, and be really easy drinking. We started a Mexican lager because my brewmaster at the time came to my house and he saw me driving my lawn tractor, and I had a 12er of Sol on my tractor, and I was just slamming Sols on my tractor because it's 35 degrees out. And he's like, "Okay, we're gonna work on a Mexican lager now." Our Mexican lager, I just drink it on my tractor because it's super easy drinking. It's got that vibe that I really want, and everything.
It's perfect. I love craft Mexican lagers. I think they're such a fantastic addition to that. But the cream ale base for this is so great because of that inoffensiveness. Like, you could actually probably do a sick fruited Mexican lager too. But it's sort of like, I'm getting the cereal sort of under it, so you can tell it's a beer and it's not a seltzer or anything, but it's a really nice. It holds the berries really well. Like, it's really nice.
Yeah, and it slowly shows more and more of the berry side, and it holds it more, and it gives you more mouthfeel. That if this was a seltzer, you'd
There'd
be
be
drinking
no,
almost just carbonated berry water, you
yeah,
know.
100%.
Um, and I'm a big mouthfeel guy. For me, when it comes to fermented product and carbonated alcohols, I love to have a mouthfeel. And especially when we don't do the lagerization on this, you're getting that a lot more thickness in the beer. So
Yeah, I'm definitely getting in comparison. There's the cream. It puts the cream and cream out of this beer. It's
yeah,
it's definitely a different experience, but it's like super fun, and I can see that. See, like this is another introductory one. One of the most interesting things to me was we're in New York with my girlfriend and one of her friends who's a wine drinker. She doesn't drink beer, and I was drinking like an other half New England IPA. So she's like, "Oh, what's going on here? Can I sip this?" And I gave her some of that. She was like, "What? This is beer?" And I feel like that flavor profile for someone who's sitting there drinking white wine was really interesting because it's fruity, it's not bitter. It's like, wow, this is beer. And I feel like this is also that. This is something that is super. It's not you've hit all the balance right, which sounds like the common theme in
yeah,
everything for Knowlton is balance.
balance.
Balance
Me,
is
it's
key for
all
you. Yeah.
about balance.
Yeah.
Me, it's hardcore key is nothing that is on its own in flavor. The one that we're going to go to next when you're ready is the WDDH, and that one will have the most debalanced flavor profile that I'll allow in our products.
Right. Right.
And this has been modified 4 times, and I'm still not satisfied with it.
Okay.
Um, and that's one thing that we do a lot with our seasonal products like this. Um, we're continuously changing it because we're not necessarily satisfied with it until we hit it. And if we hit something that we're satisfied with it, it basically joins our lineup. Um,
Okay.
like for me, the ESB is permanently on our lineup. That's going to stay on rotation with the Irish Red Ale, the Cream Ale, the West Coast, the Wheat Ale, the Porter, and our Grisette. The Grisette is just permanently on our lineup because I find we've hit those perfectly.
Right.
After that, I'm not doing this every time, the Berry Delicious, because I don't want to. Not because I don't think it's going to sell in the winter, because I actually think it would sell in the winter. I just don't want to do a berry product as a lineup. This we
Mm.
always just change the fruits, have fun, do whatever we want with it. Um, but when we hit something that we actually satisfied with, we basically add it to the lineup and we just take it out whenever we want. It doesn't necessarily come into a seasonal atmosphere for us. It's just more like when it functions. Because if you've hit them perfectly, they're gonna sell. No, if it's summer or winter,
Right.
at
That's
least
a
for
great
us.
point. No, that's a great point, man. I love that, and I like the
Yeah.
perfectionism on all of that. Do you want to jump? Do you want to go into the?
Yeah. Well, I know you were keen about it,
No, I'm keen, bro.
and
I
so I
look.
want to make
I'm gonna
sure.
finish all these afterwards anyway, so it's it's all
Yeah.
good. As I was saying to you earlier, like this is a little more of an extreme one tonight because we're trying to push through more beers to allow us to talk about them all and show what you guys really do.
Yeah.
So I was going through six, actually drinking 6 beers in this whole time, we would be in trouble.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that'd
my
be fun then.
when we went to send you the beers, my guy was just like, I have to bring him a box anyways. I said, just send him 6, it'd be fine.
Like, why not? Let's do it. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? Fuck it. Let's do them all. Like, that's what I said to you today. I was like,
It's all good.
why not, right? Like, I feel like it's super interesting.
I,
So, go on. Sorry, man.
yeah. So do you want to jump onto this one?
Yeah, I
The
just told
DH, or-
my girlfriend to come and grab it for me if she could. Yeah, talk
Fantastic.
about it. So, show us that one. I love
Yeah.
if you can.
So the DDH started as the session DDH.
Okay.
And that's why we have that like little rock star session going on, where he exposes things and he's still having his beer. So it started as the session DDH, and the session DDH was so well received. At the time, Toby was still with us. He hadn't left yet, and we talked together, and we was like, we should do something a little stronger than this. He goes, let's just do a double version. Let's do double the alcohol, almost double the hops. Let's do it. And
Perfect.
then since then we've done about 4 different variations of this,
Okay.
because I found the session really well balanced. It wasn't too bitter. It had a nice tropical side to it. It has a vanilla addition and everything. But when it comes to this more complicated 8.5 version. You're probably going to be a huge fan since you love East Coast and everything.
Yes, this is my jam. I've been looking forward to this one. Yeah, man, it's
You
like
see, so
looks great. Oh hell yeah, that's hazy as fuck. What are you talking about? I didn't expect this based on what you were saying.
no, that's what I was saying. It's hazy,
This is
but
like super
you're
hazy.
going to touch it. Yeah, but you're going to put it in your mouth, and I'm hoping that you're going to get the same thing that I've been trying to do is not a thick flavor, not a thick texture. I
So it's
still
not
want
heavy.
it light in profile. No,
Okay.
not heavy.
That is definitely one downside of the higher ABV New England IPAs. It's kind of like, I know we were talking about the calories earlier, but it does really sometimes feel like a meal in a glass, and it can be not the thing that you sort of want all the time, and in particular during summer. I mean, it depends.
You see that? That's the haze. Like that's compared to our West Coast.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's super. This is super hazy. Thank you. This is look at that. That's murk. This is what I would call murky.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of the. I like if you're gonna do haze. I just feel like you go balls to the wall. And you mentioned unbalanced. Fun thing about that, I did a podcast with JP, who owns Silo and Bira, and he used to be at La Circa Cell. We did an interview at La Circa Cell in 2018, and he made a New England IPA, and he said similar things. He was like, you know what, I like to make my stuff balanced, so I made this balanced version. And a couple of years, I think like last year or the year before, he was like, I remember when I said that to you, he's like, I was wrong. Like, these beers are inherently imbalanced. So it was like...
Yeah.
And I think
And
that makes it okay. Yeah, that's kind of what you were getting at, I felt.
Yeah, but I'm thinking I'm getting closer. Like, now that I'm having it, we canned it 2 weeks ago. When I had it 2 weeks ago, I was
Probably too
on
green
the
still,
green
eh?
side, and it was very green, and I was like, oh. And I was like, but usually when it comes right off the canning line, it's my favorite time to drink the beer, right?
Yep. I bet, fuck.
This time, I was like, I'm still there, but now I'm drinking it today for the first time in about a week, and I'm really enjoying this.
Okay, like the nose is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love the canned noses, and by the way, the beers. So this is interesting. Citra Sabro, which is impeccable, and Nugget. So you put the Nugget, and that's what you were talking about, the bitterness here.
Yeah, basically, it's Nugget for bitter on basically everything. For me, it's the best base hop for clean bitter flavor.
Okay. I love it.
Oils.
I got the sediment came out of the can to the bottom. That's a great sign. I love that. When that happens, that means I'm like, all right.
If you like that. Yesterday, I had a guy write to us on Facebook. I'll let you enjoy that first.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice balance. It's not too hoppy. Texture-wise, it's not thick.
No, it's like it's giving you all the things that you want without that intense heaviness. I think it's significantly thicker than anything else we've had. Obviously, it's 8.5.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's thicker because I want it to be thicker because we are going the oat side, right? We want a mouthfeel.
Did you put lactose in it?
No lactose.
No. Okay.
No, we're going to get that profile only from our oat edition.
Okay, and you put vanilla?
Yeah, it's a vanilla.
No
so
shit.
we do a high alcohol extraction vanilla concentrate. So we basically get like strong alcohol, like it's like whatever the highest percentage you can buy at SAQ.
Okay.
And then we extract like a vanilla syrup, and then we pour it into our beer. And because it gives it without giving because we're not putting a massive amount of alcohol here. We're talking like 500 liters in 5,000 liters. So it's not, it's tiny little volume in the big thing, but it goes and it extracts the proper amount of vanilla that we like, and it really breaks down the vanilla. But yeah, so this is, and you see, it's not too bitter. That's one thing that I really don't necessarily like in East Coast IPAs, is that you get that green side that then it becomes super bitter. And so here it's like, 45%, 45 IBU, maybe a little bit more.
Do you know what? I want to say something in defense of the greenness. What I think that does, whilst when you drink it off the canning line and then it tastes like you just drank fucking like crushed hops or something, not the most pleasant thing in the world, but it gives it longevity, which I love.
Yeah,
because, you know what, as people in the beer world, you get a bunch of beer and you're like, sometimes things fall in the back of the fridge or you don't get to it or whatever. But the greenness in the IPAs make it last significantly longer, like to the point of potentially months.
I also personally think it's all about how much dissolved oxygen that you're allowing into your can here.
That's a fair point too.
I find a lot of people are not as anal as they should be when it comes to their finishing standards when it comes to canning in a micro setting.
Mm-hmm.
We run a cask canning, but we're running DO numbers that are super, super low. We're super happy about it, but it's because we take our time when it comes to canning, and we're measuring every little detail. We're checking seams with whatever technology we can get our hands on. We're doing multiple testings. We're personally calibrating our machines to make sure that we're doing well on that. But like with this beer, yesterday I got a Facebook message. You have mold in your beer. And I go, no, I don't have mold in my beer. First of all, it's impossible when a properly sealed can is done. You can't just have mold in your beer. It's aerobic, so you're not having any oxygen penetration, so that's not possible. So I was like, send me a photo. And I go, dude, that's hop deposit. And he goes, no, it's not. And I was like, yes, it is. And he pours out. He sends me a photo of him pouring out. Then he sees it at the bottom of his glass. He's like, it was hops. And I said, do you have another one? He goes, no. And I said, all right, well, just come to the brewery. I'll get you another one. You can enjoy it. Because I know it wasn't hops, but the guy wasn't going to take his own risk.
So he was worried. Where did he think the mold was? Was it the shit that comes at the bottom?
It was just the hop. It's the hops that he sat down. He's not an experienced like bigger beer drinker, like a hoppy beer drinker.
Right. So he didn't know that that's how.
Thought it was. Yeah, he didn't realize that you can get hop deposit in your beer.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I guess comes with experience drinking these ones. I didn't ever really thought about that people would think it's something.
Yeah,
something other than just shit that's supposed to be.
No, and that's the thing. You get people that if they get hop deposit, they're like, you made a shit beer. You shouldn't have any hop deposit. I agree that we might have a little too much in this product for my liking, but some people be happy with it. For me, when I'm drinking something that is double dry hopped, I'm usually never drinking all the way down to the bottom of the can because I know I don't like what's down there.
Right.
But you, on the other hand, you love that greeniness, I guess, and
I really
go
do.
For it.
I find it's such a I'm getting some of it in here still. There's there's like the mild piney bitterness as well, which is a unique flavor profile in an oat cream kind of IPA because typically they have lactose in them, so they're a little sweeter. This isn't overly sweet, but the greenness is like I like it, but it's got to be in just the right amount. I've had some beers that are so green that I'm like, you're making a face when you're drinking. I'm like, this is
and that's what I'm saying is, again, for me, it's that balance. It's like, when you have that green beer that's super piney, you put it in your mouth and you, at 1 second you like it and then you hate it. For me, if it gets too strong. And so I'm like, what can we bring? What can we go and get that aspect that we love without overpowering? Mm-hmm. We're almost at that side for me where we're getting it without overpowering. We're a little bit overpowered for me. Still,
gotcha.
I'm the first one to. I'm the biggest critique of my own beers. Whenever I do interviews, I always ripping in my own beers, and people are always like, "What the hell?" But I'm always like, no, we could do better. And this one's good, and I love it, and people are enjoying it. But I think it can be better balanced and better serve my purpose of being drinkable and being introductory to a double and to a double dry hop,
right.
Without scaring people.
Understood. Look, I think this is honestly impressing me, man. This is really solid shit. I think it's important for people if people who are watching who don't know, I think it's great. Say I'm pouring. I always drink it, obviously, a beer in a glass, and I drink it out of the can. But with New England IPAs, I like to swirl and make sure I get whatever's at the bottom to pour it in, because it very, very, very rarely floats around. As you can tell, this beer is, I was about to say, like, is clear. It's the opposite of clear, but there's no shit in it. All the sediment sank right to the bottom, which is completely fine because you don't drink those last 4 sips. And that's a part of the game. And I've noticed that there's a lot of flavor. It's the actual opposite. And I'm such a haze dude that I fucked up, and I was drinking the Lambic last year, and I totally forgot. I'm getting the sediment. I'm aggressively pouring the sediment in, and someone was like, why is that Lambic like opaque? I'm like, I don't know, I just poured everything in. And I forgot that you weren't supposed to do it because I've been drinking so much haze that's how you do it. But that's where a lot of the flavor is in this type of beer. So there's nothing to be scared of for anyone who might not, know that, like the person you're talking about. Because it sinks to the bottom, it's not like you're going to get some shit in your teeth. It's just hop residue. It's nothing like crazy. But you won't even come in contact with it. It's not even anything to worry about. It's a good sign.
But I also think it's like all to their own when it comes to like what you do at the end, right? For me, I'm one, no matter whatever the beer is, I don't want the deposit. Whatever's floating at the bottom of the can.
You don't want to see it.
Whatever the style, I don't put it in my glass. Like,
okay.
For me, I'm just like, it's not that I know it's in the can. I know it's in the bottle. Same thing with wine. If I get a glass of wine and I have residue in it, for me, it's a complete
like a turn off.
Like I just can't do it. And for me, yes, it does change the flavor, and I understand completely. But for me, when you drink this the next time, I'm going to be pretty adamant that you won't have a green deposit because the flavors are going to be properly supported in the beer. For me, having a green deposit is what it is right now, but it's not what I want. For me, the beer should be thick enough to hold what it should be for what my customer wants.
So how do you get rid of it? What does that mean? Like getting rid of the green deposit? Then what does that mean?
Well, it's just proper resting in the fermenters, being patient in the bright tank, making sure that there is the right time to compress my hop bed in the fermenter, so when we transfer, we're not pulling in a bunch of stuff. Making sure that the beer has enough texture and thickness to hold the hops in suspension. Because if we don't have enough stuff in there to hold it in suspension, then we're gonna get that greeniness. And that's one of the things. Like for us, we have such a hard natural spring water at our place that it's definitely difficult to get opaqueness, but it ain't impossible. You look at these things, they're not impossible. It comes to recipe and it comes to water manipulation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I'm lucky that my newest brewer, Gael, is a complete nerd. Like he's just 42-year-old man that just loves to learn every detail when it comes to the product. And so he's learning so much, and he worked at Dunham for a while. And then he worked as a truck driver, and he was assistant brewer there. He applied to be a brewer for us, and now he's my main brewer. I couldn't go without him. His recipes are just locked on, and if I say no, this beer needs more head, he goes okay, and he finds me 10 solutions. We talk about the scientific evidence to why it would give us more head. He tests it on a little 100 liter Brewzilla. And if it does what we want, we try it on the 1,000, and so far every time he's done it, it's been perfect.
That's great,
and so we're very vibing with him, and now we have this other guy coming in about a week. We're super excited about him as well. Unfortunately, we're stealing from another brewery locally, and that's the last thing I wanted to do. I tried to find everywhere, but the employment shortage is serious. So it is what it is, but he's coming from another brewery.
Part of the industry, right? A part of any industry, people are going to move around, and is what it is. It's not like you're going out of your way to poach them and such. So
no, I didn't. I basically made a video on Instagram just saying, hey, if any brewers see this and they're interested in the work for us, just come and see us, come and email us or whatever. And by just making a video on Instagram on our reels, I got like tons of people that were interested, but lots of Quebecers who are living in Ontario or BC that didn't necessarily want to make the move back out here, but they're like judging it. So it was just very interesting.
That's cool, man. Like, I feel like that's a great way to bring in new faces and stuff. Obviously, social media is something that, like we were saying earlier, breweries traditionally haven't really embraced it, but I think during the last 2 years, they had no choice. And I think they realized they had no choice. So I think they've had to step it up, and it's been cool being like, I've owned a social media agency for 7-8 years, and I've been working in it since 2007. It's cool to see them finally like embrace it and use it to that. So that's beautiful. That's great, man.
And like we're embracing on a certain level. We wish I have so many plans to do more. Like I want to run my own podcast for both a podcast for like community development for Knowlton, and I also want to do one for the brewery. I'm still designing what it is. I want to do like long docuseries, like small docuseries, 5 minutes of each step of the brewery process that we do for creating a recipe.
Oh yeah.
That then comes into like a half an hour programming. But the thing is we're so lean at the brewery that we don't have the time as individuals to like organize and actually create these, and we're happy to subcontract and contract out. This could be a generic invite to someone if they're interested, but to come and help us organize these things, we have all these ideas. We just don't have the time and space to do them, and I think that's where we're missing. Like I think people would love to see a Instagram TV episode that's 4 minutes long of how we discuss what's the next beer, how we actually make the recipe, how we test the recipe, small short snippets of like 1 to 5 minutes, and then it comes into a nice long docuseries of the whole creation, tail to end. And these are all things that we want to do. We just don't have enough time.
Fuck, man, I feel that. I feel like there'd be a bunch of... It's going to be videographers, and there's a lot of great creators in the beer world these days, particularly here in Quebec.
Yeah.
That are great with film and photography and putting that thing together, so there could be some opportunities. So if anyone is listening or watching, like, holla at Nick, man. And,
I'm all for it.
I think there's actually something that I've noticed a lot lately, that brewery-run podcasts or brewery content is becoming a little more common. It's still slower, but it's becoming more common. I think it's great because it's, like you said, it's just like insight into that world of everything that you're doing in a way that, like, you can be interviewed and we'll ask certain questions, but there'll be just things that, we wouldn't get into that you could cover on your own type of stuff. That's
And that's where I want. I'm trying to find the balance of creating a podcast that both promotes the brewery and also assists and helps promote Knowlton, because my project of calling the brewery Knowlton and setting up in Knowlton is really just meant to bring more people to this area,
right,
and tourism, and we're already doing it, and grow employment and feed the local economic system. So it is. I'm really interested in it. We went to CBC, like the Brewers Conference, in Minneapolis this year, and there was a lot of conversation about microbreweries and social media space and how important podcast is for both their brewery and for their local population. And so it's something that I would really, really want to get into. Again, it's just about timing.
It's about time, bro.
Yeah.
I understand. Like we have an agency. We got 5 employees right now. We had just the 2 of us for most of the time. But in the last 2 years, it's grown a lot, and there's so many things we're trying to create. Courses. We have a YouTube channel, but we can even barely. We're doing pretty well with that, but we're struggling to keep up because we have clients to deal with, and so on and so forth. So it's the same problem, where there's so many different things that you want to do as a business, but you need to be able to free up the time so that as the founder, your time needs to be allocated in the right places. But if you're a lean team, and we've been a lean team forever, so now we're starting to get the people in place, but then they have to be confident and comfortable before you can. All right, you good? All right, so I'm going to do this now.
Yeah, totally.
So you got to make
And
sure
like,
shit's been taken care of.
and like, I have Stu on my right hand, and like, if he didn't come into the play, like, I'd be completely in a different place. Like, he's taking so much of the daily tasks and daily headaches and daily costing and everything, so that I'm able to go and start pricing out our growth, think about opening the whatever location or doing whatever we want. I'm there to start conceptualizing that, and then also argue down the people. I'm the bad guy. If we need to fire someone, I'm the bad guy,
Bad cop,
and argue down when someone calls and they want to give us a too high of a quote. Well, I'm the guy who has to negotiate the quote down. So I'm the bad cop and the bulldog, but he's the guy who does the work that needs to be done. So it's much appreciated.
It's a beautiful thing.
Do you have
Yes.
time for the?
Do I have time?
For the last one?
I couldn't possibly have enough. Of course I do. Absolutely.
Different.
It's ready.
So this is.
You want to talk about that? I'm going to grab it. Just talk about that. I'll be back
perfect.
in 2 seconds. Keep
going.
going.
Finish my glass here. So this is the Irish Red Ale, guys. We made this specifically because I wanted to find an in between our cream ale and our porter, and we did it originally before introducing the ESB. This one is really a classic. I just love a red beer. I love something amber. I want something a little caramel, a little sweet, but really easy drinking, very light in texture, nothing hoppy. And here's a little red ale here. Let me try to get in the camera here. And yeah, so it's a fun beer. This has been redesigned, I think, about 4 times until we found the recipe that we really want to go with. And now this is about the 5th generation of that new recipe, and I think we've locked it in. We added a base. We added a grain that is a little bit more red in style. It's actually called Red X, so it just brings that red level way up. Before it was falling into that brown ale side. So yeah, this is what we call our Irish Red. Again, it's a little bit of inspiration from a golf trip that we had in Ireland. It's very little like roasted. We want a nice roasted side. Yeah, and he's showing the story right now. The story is pretty funny.
Yes.
We wanted to go a little like pub classic scene,
With the dots.
and definitely have like a little maybe vibe of an Englishman, like an Englishman from the 70s maybe, playing darts, and then finds that big playing darts with, and most of our stories has a little bit like rudeness that happens, but most of the characters are finishing with a beer in their hands at the end. It's very important that, like, me and my dad always saw a beer as like at the end of day outlet, like a nice after day work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, you're gonna see it's got a nice cool. Nice little like torrefied, like roasted side in the flavor.
Yeah.
But it's like got that nice ruby red into it.
So an Irish red ale, is that a specific, like, what's the difference between like an Irish red ale than say like a amber ale or a roost that we would find here in Quebec?
Yeah, so it's very hard to. So for me, when we pick a recipe or we pick a beer design, I always pick regional, or I pick something I've really liked in the past, or as a group that we've liked. When it comes to Irish red ales, I've always loved certain styles that have come out of Ireland, and I just love the conception of Irish beers. So what we did, we
Right.
started looking at the recipes, and we realized that it's got a very clear. It's got to be crisp. You got to be able to see right through it.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a little bit lighter, but you can
Yeah,
see right
mine's a
through
little.
that. It's got to be red, but it's got to be really easy drinking. But it's got to be strong in roast flavors and in caramel,
Right.
and that's basically what we went with. When it comes to the differences in Quebec, I find Quebec red ales are much more less caramelly, more like just beery, more grainy.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say. And for me, it's much more on the
You get
nose. You get this nice little
toffee.
sweet
Yeah.
toffee. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So my understanding is a Roos is a mix of an. Is it an Irish red and a cream ale? Is that what it is?
It's possible, but
I think I've heard that before. But this is the straight Irish red, a bit more, like you said, traditional, based on
yeah.
your travels and everything
To me,
else
it's
that you guys have done.
and everything that we've been doing recently is very traditional in style. We really like locking on,
All right.
and I was saying to the camera when you were away that this is probably the fourth variation that we've done, but it's the
Mm-hmm.
fifth brew of the fourth variation. This is now the most. This is what we're staying with. This is where
This
we're
is the
happy
version.
with this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why did you
Maybe
choose
one day.
this style? Oh, go on. Why did maybe one day?
So maybe one day, like the cream ale, we'll put this on nitrogen,
Oh, that'd be
just
cool.
because I think it would bring a nice side to it.
Yeah.
It just the whole nitrogen system is very complicated for microbreweries to do.
Yeah, it's
The
pretty
lids
intense.
and stuff don't work. Yeah.
Yeah, particularly for canning and all
Why
that.
do we
Yeah.
choose to do this?
Yeah, what's this particular style? Like, what was the inspiration for this one? Was it just more playing alongside the cream ale and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, so I was saying to the camera that we wanted a space between the cream ale and the porter.
Mm-hmm.
So then we came out with this. I said, what is a good space between there? And we knew that Irish red would be a pretty good middle ground. So we came out with this to realize that we were still missing a middle ground. That's why we went with the ESB. So
Okay.
it basically goes like it would be these two, then this, and then the porter would be right here. Our porter's
Gotcha.
the darkest, and we want a nice little stepping stone. And for me, it's like stepping stone in flavors and styles. So if you have that idea that you want to get into a dark beer that you don't, but you're not necessarily there, then we can get you moving down the line. And these are all pintable pub style beers still in their generic style.
It's true.
Like this, you can drink a lot of them if you want, if you like.
It's like I haven't had an Irish red for a little bit. There's such an interesting. This was my very first favorite beer style. After I moved on, when I first like it was 2011 when I really really got into it, and it was moving on from all the lagers and red ales, and I'm getting the whatever that is. I imagine it's that toffee caramel that was like the next level up from lagers. It was interesting and something different, but not too intense that it would scare someone off. I just feel like if you really going up that color wheel stepping stones type of thing, this is the perfect next level from the blonde beer stuff, which is exactly what you were just saying.
So for me, I have like the direction of moving you up into like new beer styles, which it goes into darker beer styles, or I can move you from the cream ale to the more hoppy styles. And that's what I've done with a lot of the people that come by the brewery. If someone's interested in more darker beers, I move them down the line. ESB, red ale, then to the porter, and then to our more complex stouts.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're interested on the blonde side, well, we move them up from the cream ale to a lager, a more complicated lager, then to the wheat ale, and then on to the IPAs. And we always have one stepping stone on one for each direction stepping stone on tap. Cream ale is my baseline, and so I have one stepping stone from the hoppy side on tap. I have one stepping stone of the darker side on tap, and then it just goes wherever we want after that. And for me, anyways, I can try to convince people to move from the cream ale, but this is by far the best seller in both. Um, and I love people that tell me that microbrew stores don't sell light beer, like easy drinking beers. This is by far the most selling beer that we have, the cream ale, in all stores,
Interesting.
IGAs, specialty stores. It just sells.
Hmm.
Um, and that it is what it is. But the Irish Red is pretty close. During the right season, this beer sells pretty hot.
Crushes it. So this is a
Yeah.
seasonal then. This is not like
Mm.
year round.
No, it's pretty much a staple. We have to say,
Okay.
um, it's pretty much a staple. We couldn't. Every time we brew it, we're like, okay, we brewed it like a month ago, and we're like, okay, we're not gonna need to brew it for a while. We're gonna do a brew in 2 weeks of it because we have no more.
Right. It's
It's
just
just
flying
a
out.
style that keeps going. It keeps going. I want to do an
Interesting.
Earl Grey. I want to do an Earl Grey version of this with Earl Grey tea. I think it could be really fun. Nice little sweet Earl Grey vibe to it. Could be really fun.
That's a
And
cool
that's where
twist.
we're trying to decide. The cream ale we do berries with it. The wheat ale we do citrus. The IPAs we're doing hops. What is our like additive? Is it the coffee? The porter, we're doing coffee now. Before it was cocoa, whatever we wanted. Now the porter is our coffee beer. We're going to be rotating coffee styles in it
Oh yeah.
whenever we want. And so like the Irish Red, I've been like trying to debate what is our additive for the variants of our standard staple, um, the one-offs that we do. And I think tea would be kind of fun with it.
You can see
You
that
know,
on brand for the English styles. And that sort
yeah.
of astringent, like you said, you mentioned fruity. I guess you could consider Earl Grey's got a little bit of fruity notes. I'm not sure what those fruits would be off the top of my head, but
Well, it's like vanilla. It's got
vanilla,
a nice
that's what
little
it is. It's vanilla,
yeah.
100%. And I feel like you could even, like, a little touch of vanilla almost in there to amplify it a little bit. And I think it would be great because this is a fantastic base for a tea.
Yeah.
This is great, man. Like I said, I haven't. This has been like a really cool, eclectic range of beers that we've had tonight. Actually, like just looking at the cans and I feel like this is a great picture of what you do, and like
Yeah, and we have a
it's
lot
been
more
interesting to
too.
drink. Yeah, I guess you do,
We
right?
didn't touch, and we didn't touch any of our saison line. Like we have a six saison line that we really have fun with. We didn't touch our we have like five or six different saisons that we rotate. We didn't see our kettle sours. We have
Shit.
a nice little spread. We're like what is it? 2 years and a half open. I think we're on our 45th recipe or 45th styles. So we're really experimental, but we also do a lot of variations of the if we lock in a product that we're really happy with, we start doing a variant with it, and then we start working on our next recipe. Like our next two big recipes that are going to be working on are kolsches. We're coming out with a kolsch, and we've been working on it. It's a much more difficult style than we anticipated, and a
Oh,
buck
buck,
beer
nice
for yeah, we
for
want for
fall.
Oktoberfest. We
Nice.
want a true Oktoberfest beer, so that we're working on it. So those are three styles that should be coming out, and a Biala Tab. I've
Nice.
always enjoyed a good Biala Tab, so we
Yeah,
have a
they're great.
Gazette that really works, but I'm trying to do like a classic Biala Tab, 2.5%, 3%, nothing higher, super low alcohol, everyone can enjoy, and everything. So
That's great, man. I mean, look, we're gonna obviously have to do this again, and maybe next time we'll get into some
you
of
come
those
to the
things.
location, man.
Oh yeah,
You gotta
I'm
come to
keen
the
as. Yeah, man, it sounds
yeah.
beautiful. Did we talk about maybe just let's wrap up? Let's talk about the location itself and then some of the future stuff. So the location
Yes.
in Knowlton,
So the
which
location is in
tell us
yeah,
about it.
it's Knowlton. It's an hour and a half from Montreal, southeast. We're about 15 minutes from the Vermont border, about half an hour from Jay Peak. Um, we're a small town outside of Bromont. We're about 5,000 people around here. We built a relatively industrial looking building, but we built like a nice wood interior with like a wood roof interior. We're slowly growing our vines over. It
Nice.
overviews a protected natural forest in the back.
Cool.
And we have a huge glass. We have about it's
Cool.
43 by 25 feet of glass wall looking
Damn.
into the forest. Um, and we have a beautiful terrace for 85 people.
I was about to ask about the terrace. Yeah, sick. That's perfect, right? For the season that's coming up.
Big terrace, and we're about to put a stage perfectly placed to the corner of the terrace for live music and open mic nights. Yeah, there we go. That's it.
Hey, let me tap. There we go. Jesus, that is beautiful, dude.
Yeah, and then you can see from the terrace, you can see right into the brewery. That's you're looking into the brewery there?
Into the brewery, okay.
Yeah, and the other direction would be looking into the forest.
And that is kind of looking at the brewery from the terrace there?
Yeah, that's the terrace.
I see what you mean. Industrial, but like that's perfect when you got right out, so it looks modern.
Yeah.
Then you're sitting outside and you just got nature. Fuck, man, that's sick.
So it's just a good vibe out there. During COVID, we put the tables on the grass. Now the tables are back just on the cement on the
I see
pavers. But field games and everything will be available in on the grass and everything, lawn games and everything. So,
dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a good vibe. We try to have a good time, and again, we're trying to base all our beers on stuff that you can have multiple of. And so it is just a place that you can come, and there's beautiful hotels in the area.
There's a beautiful region.
If you ever want to,
yeah.
And if you ever want to come up here, like we can show you the region, and we're saturated with microbreweries now. We got Abordage, Brewery, we got Dunham, we got West Shefford. We got so many within 25 minutes of here. It's crazy.
So it's a great place for people, coming up to the summer. We're in mid-May now. This is coming out next week, so people hear this nice and fresh. So coming into the summer, like it's a perfect spot to kind of, book a weekend away, and you can just hit breweries all weekend.
It's also like the best biking location. You could go to Sutton, hit 2 breweries, come to us, and then you can hit Robin, which Robin is an amazing brewery.
Yeah.
Robin is about 30 minutes from here. So we do a trip, and La Ferme. La Ferme is another 30 minutes from here. So we do a bike trip. Me and my family. We go to Sutton. We start in Sutton. We bike to Knowlton. From Knowlton we go to Robin. From Robin we go to La Ferme, and it's a big trip. It's an exhausting trip, but it's a beautiful cycle.
Right.
And if you're really into it, you can easily add a Dunham to it, and there's a new one in Waterloo. I'm trying to remember. Anyways,
that sounds so familiar.
It's a brand new.
Yeah.
No, in Cowansville. There's a new one in Cowansville. I know. Forget it, but.
Yeah. Okay. Cowansville.
It's got an owl on their can. Some of their cans have like an owl sketch on it.
Okay, Cowansville.
Anyways, it's a beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. It's a beautiful region for. Right, and Sage
the vineyards.
The Sage.
Yeah, Sage.
I haven't heard of them. Okay, haven't heard of them.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it's a small little nano thing. But it's a beautiful region for wineries and beer. But our place is it's definitely booming. And we couldn't be any busier. We couldn't handle it. So awesome, it's definitely a blessing in disguise. So
that's so cool. It's like I've been wanting to get out that way a little bit more, and now that I feel like a lot of the vibe here that I notice in Montreal, like people are ready to fucking just hit up brewery and just like go now. It's been the last couple of years, people feeling comfortable, not so comfortable, whatever it might be. But now I just see people just out. I think it's about to be a really good summer. I think for
and since January, since February, where we're allowed to be back open, it's just been
killing
crazy
it,
for us. We
love it.
We couldn't be I couldn't have thought that we would be this busy comparative to other years and everything. I would have never thought. And we're only going into the busy season, so we're like super excited. And I think it should work out. So.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Like, it's beautiful. I love it. This is great. So then what can people look forward to from Knowlton coming up? Say, let's talk about the summer specifically. Like, what can they look forward to that you got coming out, whether it's events, beer releases?
Yeah, so we're about this summer, from next weekend to the end of summer, we're about every other weekend we're at a beer festival.
Hell yeah.
So we'll be present on the market for you guys to test us out. When it comes to beer releases, we make decisions pretty fast. And so I could tell you, we're working on a Kolsch, we're working on a Bière de Table, we're working on a light beer, and we're working on a few different variants of these products. But then today, like we're wanting to try to put the Kolsch into the schedule for production. We decided it's not ready. We tried a variation. We're not happy with it, or we're not just ready for it. So me and my partner Stu decided, let's do a variation of the Gazette. So we have a Gazette Cherry coming out that I think should be a bomb. Our Gazette is already a beer that's super accepted, and the Cherry should just make nice little acidic side.
Perfect.
And after that, we're just going to be keeping a lookout on our social media page for any events, because we have an event planner that's working for us now that's taking care of festivals and events. And we should be doing live music and tons of fun little activities at the brewery. So
that's dope, man. And even just looking at those pictures, like, Jesus, that is very attractive. And that's kind of what you want to see. You're going to go to a bunch of breweries this summer, and you want to just, like, that sounds like a place you just park for the whole afternoon or evening.
Yeah, exactly. I've had a lot of people come by saying they're going to bike to somewhere else, and then they just stay. and then I end up driving them home because they have had too many beers and there's no taxi service. But don't worry, Nick is a taxi service if
Uncle Nick will
take
enough
beers. So,
Uncle Nick will take care of you.
Exactly.
I love that, bro. No, dude, this has been awesome. I really feel like I've got a really great understanding of you personally and what you're doing and the beers. For real, I'm impressed, dude. Like, this is the hardest one.
Thanks, man.
And the most left field, obviously, compared to this was the Oat Cream, but that shit was fire. And I'm an experienced haze boy, and that shit is very much up my alley. So whatever else you do to it, I'm sure you'll continue to make it better. But I think this is like a really fantastic range of beers, and like you said, we barely scratched the surface. And I love that you're doing things that satisfy the more experienced palates, but also are welcoming to newer palates, and to sort of guide them through that journey of welcoming people into craft beer, because at the end of the day, that's really what this is all about. So, man, congrats on all the success. I love the entrepreneurial spirit. It's a beautiful thing, man. I'm definitely going to come see you this summer, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Where can
it's been a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, man, this has been great. You know what? Let's do the thumbnail. I'm going to take a screenshot. Do you want to hold up some of the cans, and then we'll do the wrap up? What do I get here? Yeah, we'll get the berry. Let's get the let's get the West Coast. Yeah, all right. Oh,
I got 3 in my
You got 3?
hands.
Perfect. Love. Oh shit! What did I do? Okay. All right. So hang on. Let me just do. That's what I was trying to do. There we go. All right. Let me get mine right here. Ready?
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Let me see if I got that.
Perfect.
Boom. Got it.
Did it work?
It did. It worked perfect. Where can everybody find Knowlton online, bro?
So online, the best place would be definitely Cheers. They have the most presence for Montreal distribution for us, at least.
Okay.
Unless you want to, are you talking about like social media? Or
social media, website too, but also where can people find it?
It's all at Knowlton Co. You search Knowlton Co. If you search restaurant in Knowlton, we'll probably be the first one who shows up. Search pizzeria in Bromont, we might be one of the first ones who shows up, because that's what we do at the brewery.
Oh yeah.
So really search just Knowlton. and we'll probably be one of the first things. But at Knowlton Co is everything: TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're all on there. We might not be active in all of them, but Instagram and Facebook we're very active. TikTok we're getting into it.
Likewise. Good.
So just follow us, like us, and everything like that. So.
Perfect. I love it. And obviously, like you said, you're available at Cheers Boutique and a bunch of, basically you said 300 sales points across Quebec, whether it's IGAs.
Yeah, we have tons of places because we love to sell small volume to more locations.
Gotcha. So I see you everywhere.
That's what we do.
Everywhere I go, I always see Knowlton. So it should be hard to find. But Beauty, I'm going to wrap this up. Stick around and we'll finish up off at the end of the call. But brother, thank you so much for taking the time and for hanging out tonight. This has been a really fun time. I really appreciate you. Guys, make sure you go check out Knowlton everywhere. And if you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit the notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us on social media everywhere at BAOS Podcast, including TikTok now as well. We are on there. We are posting regularly. Make sure you follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, we drop a new one. Yeah, man, we're going to keep busting out. We have our link up series starting soon, but we're going to probably drop them concurrently with the regular podcast because we have a bunch of content. It's summer. It's about to be a good time. I can't wait. Guys, appreciate y'all. See you in the next episode. Cheers.